Eleanor knew what it felt like to be stuck, not just financially, though that was a constant aching reality, but stuck in a life that felt perpetually out of reach from the vibrant, abundant existence she often dreamed of. The simple joy of being surrounded by books, a passion that had once defined her, was slowly being suffocated by the weight of scarcity. Friends and family offered well-meaning advice, often echoing the conventional wisdom she'd always followed. Work harder, save more, cut costs. Each morning, before the store opened, she would find a quiet corner amidst the towering shelves, close her eyes, and as her great-aunt had written, Eleanor began to visualize her bookstore bustling with happy customers. Her ledger filled with green numbers and a feeling of ease replacing the constant tension. This too felt like an exercise in futility, bordering on delusion. A local university, looking to expand its humanities department, approached Eleanor about acquiring rare out-of-print editions that she had carefully curated over the years. But from the cumulative, almost mundane power of these simple, daily rituals, one afternoon, while reviewing her accounts, she noticed something extraordinary. They were captivated, not by a tale of a grand strategy, but by the quiet power of her daily habits. It was an abundance of time, of creative energy, of meaningful connections. She found herself with more hours for herself, for her community, and for exploring new passions. The stress that had once defined her days dissipated, replaced by a deep sense of security and joy. She realized that the simple daily rituals had indeed unlocked an unstoppable flow. Not because they manipulated external circumstances, but because they transformed her from within. They cultivated a deep-seated belief in her own capacity for abundance. Turning her into a magnet for opportunity and prosperity, her bookstore, The Boundless Page, began to thrive. It wasn't just surviving, it was flourishing. She hired staff, expanded her inventory, and even started hosting workshops on mindful living and creative entrepreneurship, drawing on her own journey. Her debt was not only repaid, but her reserves grew steadily, creating a buffer she had once only dreamed of. The unstoppable flow jar, which she had faithfully fed with single dollars, had accumulated enough to cover her entire property tax bill, a sum she had been dreading. But it wasn't just the money. It was the ease with which it had accumulated, almost effortlessly, separate from her business's day-to-day fluctuations. It's about the silent commitments made each day, the consistent acts of alignment with a vision of prosperity, and the unwavering belief in the power of seemingly small actions to compound into an unstoppable force. Her story, quiet yet profound, echoed through the bustling streets of Portland, a reminder that the key to unlocking extraordinary abundance often lies not in complex schemes or risky ventures, but in the radical simplicity of one's own daily ritual. And for Eleanor, the boundless pages of her life, once filled with worry, were now turning chapter by chapter into a vibrant narrative of limitless possibility. And then it hit her. The university deal, the increased foot traffic in her store, the unexpected media mention that brought in new customers. None of these were the result of more work in the traditional sense. They were outcomes of her altered state. This wasn't a sudden windfall, but a significant, steady stream of income over several months, far beyond what she typically made. The gratitude, the visualization, the consistent giving to the abundance pebble, these weren't just actions. They were profound statements to the universe and to her own subconscious that she was open to receiving. She wasn't chasing money. She was aligning herself with the flow of it. The truly shocking revelation wasn't a hidden investment tip or a secret market hack. It was the radical simplicity, the almost counterintuitive truth, that the most profound financial transformations begin with the quietest, most consistent internal shifts. This was the unstoppable wealth her great-aunt had written about. Not just a bank account, but an inexhaustible wellspring of resources, opportunities, and peace of mind. It was a lifeline, a breathing room she hadn't dared to dream of. As the payments came in, Eleanor, following her great-aunt's advice, continued her abundance pebble ritual, consistently setting aside her dollar, even when the amounts she was receiving grew larger. She also started a new practice before making any significant purchase or decision for the store. She would pause, visualize the positive outcome, and mentally express gratitude for it as if it had already happened. How could merely imagining something make it real? But the journal insisted on consistency. Even a tiny seed, watered daily, will eventually break through the soil, it read. She also committed to what her great-aunt called the abundance pebble, setting aside $1, no matter how tight things were, into a jar labeled Unstoppable Flow. $1. It felt insignificant, almost laughable, when her debts ran into the tens of thousands. Yet, the ritual wasn't about the amount, but the act. It was about creating a channel, however small, for something new. Feel the warmth of gratitude for 5 simple things. The rituals were not a quick fix, but a slow, steady reprogramming of her internal landscape. Her customers started noticing a subtle change in her demeanor. She was still hardworking, but there was a new lightness in her step, a genuine warmth in her smile that hadn't been there before. Her conversations became more engaging, less burdened by the unspoken weight of her financial struggles. She found herself offering recommendations with newfound passion, genuinely connecting with patrons over shared literary interests. This shift in energy was the first, almost imperceptible ripple. It felt awkward at first. Her mind, accustomed to cataloging worries, struggled to find things to be thankful for beyond the obvious. But she persisted. A warm cup of tea, the gentle patter of rain, the scent of old paper. A customer who smiled genuinely, slowly, imperceptibly, a shift began. The knot in her stomach didn't vanish, but it loosened, just a fraction. She was doing all of that, and still, the financial dam held firm. It was a disheartening cycle, one that countless others found themselves trapped in, feeling the gnawing frustration of unrewarded labor. For years, she'd poured her heart and soul into her small, independent bookstore, the Boundless Page, nestled in a quiet corner of Portland. It belonged to her great-aunt, a woman Eleanor barely remembered, who had lived a remarkably full life despite humble beginnings. The journal wasn't filled with grand financial strategies or detailed investment plans. Instead, it contained simple, almost childlike entries describing daily rituals, moments of quiet reflection, expressions of gratitude for the smallest things, visualizations of desired outcomes, and consistent, often minuscule, acts of giving or saving. Eleanor scoffed. How could such simple, seemingly disconnected practices possibly alter the harsh realities of a struggling business? Yet, a flicker of curiosity, born from sheer desperation, took root. She had tried everything else. What did she have to lose? She worked grueling hours, ordered new titles with dwindling funds, and meticulously arranged displays, yet the scales never seemed to tip in her favor. The stack of unpaid invoices grew taller than her tallest bookshelf, and the fear of eviction hummed a low, constant note in the background of her thoughts. She'd tried everything she knew: late-night marketing sprints, community events, even a brief, ill-fated foray into online sales that only deepened her exhaustion. Why, she wondered, did money seem to elude her, despite her relentless effort? Her days were a blur of caffeine and worry. She'd wake with a knot in her stomach, mentally tallying expenses, before her feet even hit the floor. One crisp autumn morning, as rain slicked the streets outside her window, Eleanor stumbled upon an old, forgotten journal tucked away on a dusty shelf in her own store. She decided to humor the journal, starting small. She integrated a visualization practice. Her Grattan's journal spoke of seeing with the mind's eye. Weeks turned into months. Eleanor's initial skepticism began to erode, replaced by a quiet sense of purpose. Then came the first, unexpected turn. The viral hook, the profound realization that would change Eleanor's life and inspire countless others, came not from a massive, overnight success. Her great-aunt's journal wasn't just about financial practices. It was about cultivating a mindset, an energetic frequency that resonated with abundance. Eleanor began to share her story cautiously at first, with a few trusted friends. The wealth that flowed into Eleanor's life wasn't just monetary. Eleanor's journey became a living testament to a profound truth, often overlooked in the relentless pursuit of success: that true wealth isn't just about what you do, but about who you become. It's about the silent commitments made each day, the consistent acts of alignment with a vision of prosperity. and the unwavering belief in the power of seemingly small actions to compound into an unstoppable force. Her story, quiet yet profound, echoed through the bustling streets of Portland, a reminder that the key to unlocking extraordinary abundance often lies not in complex schemes or risky ventures, but in the radical simplicity of one's own daily ritual. And for Eleanor, the boundless pages of her life, once filled with worry, were now turning, chapter by chapter, into a vibrant narrative of limitless possibility.